There's a silent danger that hides in the body, one that creeps in slowly, often unnoticed, until it begins to steal away energy, freedom, and joy. It's not a pain you can point to, but rather a slow buildup of waste, toxins, and pressure inside the very filters that keep you alive, your kidneys. Many people over 50 are living with tired kidneys, sometimes showing up as high creatinine on a blood test, sometimes as swelling, fatigue, or changes in blood pressure. But here's the surprising twist. A tiny blue-green alga, something that has existed for billions of years, may hold remarkable promise for protecting kidney health. I'm Dr. Brian, and welcome to Channel Vital Science for Seniors. Today we'll explore what happens when kidney patients consume spirulina for 30 days. What changes inside the body? And is it safe? The answers may surprise you. Spirulina is often called a superfood, but at its heart, it's a humble form of blue-green algae, or more precisely, a cyanobacteria. Don't let that scientific word put you off. Think of it like a microscopic plant that thrives in lakes and ponds, soaking up sunlight and turning it into dense nutrition. A spoonful of dried spirulina is packed with protein, vitamins, minerals, and powerful antioxidants. For centuries, cultures around the world, from the Aztecs in Mexico to villagers around Lake Chad in Africa, have harvested spirulina as food. Today, it's mostly taken as a supplement, praised for both energy and wellness. Not long ago, researchers decided to test spirulina in people struggling with kidney problems. They asked participants to take a daily dose for 30 days, carefully measuring health markers before and after. The results were eye-opening. Patients showed improvements in kidney function, with lower signs of inflammation, steadier blood pressure, and even better control of blood sugar. For individuals whose kidneys often struggle under the burden of waste and fluid buildup, these changes were not just numbers on a chart. They were glimpses of hope. A natural supplement, long overlooked, was beginning to reveal its potential healing touch. Imagine your kidneys as two hard-working sponges, quietly filtering every drop of blood in your body, removing waste and balancing minerals so you can live each day in comfort. But when inflammation takes hold, those sponges become stiff, irritated, and less able to do their job. Inflammation in the kidneys is like a constant low-grade fire smoldering inside. It doesn't roar loudly at first, it smokes quietly, spreading damage cell by cell until suddenly you're dealing with high creatinine, swelling, and a dangerous decline in kidney health. This is where spirulina begins to shine. One of its key compounds, called phycocyanin, is what gives it that vibrant blue-green color. But phycocyanin is more than just pretty pigment. It behaves like a skilled firefighter, rushing in to calm those flames of inflammation. In animal studies, researchers noticed that when spirulina was added to the diet, markers of oxidative stress and inflammation dropped significantly. In human studies published in the Journal of Medicinal Food, people with kidney damage who took spirulina showed reduced signs of stress on their kidneys, as though those tired sponges could finally exhale and do their work more freely again. I once had a patient named Martin, a 62-year-old retired carpenter. His biggest worry was that his blood pressure seemed to spike no matter what medication he tried. He told me, "Doc, it feels like my blood vessels are wound tight, like old garden hoses that kink and strain." His description was spot on. High blood pressure in kidney disease is often due to blood vessels constricting too much. Here again, spirulina seems to lend a hand. Scientists have discovered that small protein fragments in spirulina act a bit like keys that unlock tight blood vessels. These peptides inhibit something called the angiotensin converting enzyme, or ACE, which normally tells blood vessels to clamp down. With ACE subdued, vessels relax, blood flows more freely, and pressure naturally lowers. It's the same pathway used by common medications, known as ACE inhibitors. But here we're talking about a natural food source. Of course, spirulina also carries minerals like potassium and magnesium, both crucial for balancing blood pressure. Potassium, in particular, is like a seesaw partner for sodium. When sodium tips the scale upward, potassium helps bring it back down, protecting the delicate blood vessels in your kidneys. But here is where wisdom and caution meet. For people with advanced kidney disease, excess potassium can be risky, since weak kidneys may struggle to clear it from the blood. This is why I always remind my patients, Even the most natural remedy needs guidance from your healthcare provider. Still, the promise is undeniable. In a study featured in the Journal of Agricultural and Food Chemistry, spirulina supplementation lowered blood pressure in both animal models and humans. Over just 3 months, patients who incorporated spirulina into their daily routine saw meaningful drops in systolic and diastolic pressure. Imagine the relief of having your numbers slide down from the red zone into safer territory, not just on the blood pressure cuff, but in your heart, your kidneys, and your arteries. Martin's story has stayed with me. After discussing spirulina and ensuring his potassium levels were closely monitored, he cautiously began with a small daily dose. Over time, he noticed not only that his blood pressure stabilized, but that his morning headaches and foggy fatigue lessened. "I feel like the hoses are looser now," he told me with a grin. That image of tight vessels easing into flow captures the quiet gift spirulina can offer. When we reduce inflammation and lower blood pressure, we're not just helping numbers on a lab sheet. We are protecting the very filters of life, sparing them from wear and tear, and giving the body a chance to heal. Spirulina, when used wisely, becomes not a magic bullet, but a gentle ally, working with the body's natural design to protect kidney health. Blood sugar is like the fuel gauge in your car. When it's steady, the engine runs smoothly. But when it swings too high or too low, the ride becomes rough, and over time, the engine itself starts to wear down. For people with kidney problems, unstable blood sugar is especially dangerous. It can push creatinine levels higher, worsen protein loss in the urine, and accelerate the decline of kidney function. This is why spirulina's role in blood sugar regulation is so intriguing. Inside spirulina lies that same hero pigment we spoke of earlier, phycocyanin. But in this case, instead of putting out the fire of inflammation, it behaves like a bodyguard for the pancreas. The pancreas is the organ that produces insulin, the hormone that allows sugar to move from your blood into your cells, where it can be used for energy. When the pancreas is inflamed or stressed, insulin doesn't work as well, and blood sugar levels rise. Phycocyanin shields the pancreas from free radical damage, improves insulin sensitivity, and helps the body handle sugar more gracefully. I recall a patient, Elena, a 59-year-old school teacher, who came to me frustrated because despite following a diet for kidney disease, her blood sugar readings stayed stubbornly high. She described it as walking uphill with weights on my ankles. Every step felt harder than the last. We introduced spirulina as part of her morning routine, starting small. Within a few months, her fasting sugars began to drift down, and her energy felt steadier. The real joy for her was not in the numbers, but in being able to walk her granddaughter to the park without that crushing fatigue. Scientific studies back up Elena's experience. In research published in the Annals of Nutrition and Metabolism, patients with type 2 diabetes who supplemented with spirulina for several weeks showed improved insulin sensitivity and better control of fasting blood sugar. Another study in the Journal of Medicinal Food observed that spirulina lowered blood sugar in diabetic rats, a finding that helped pave the way for human trials. These results suggest spirulina is not replacing medication, but supporting the body's own rhythms, smoothing out the highs and lows of the glucose roller coaster. But spirulina's benefits don't stop at blood sugar. It also acts as a quiet architect of the immune system. As we age, our defenses often weaken. The immune system becomes like an old army, slower to respond, less coordinated, sometimes even confused enough to attack its own tissues. For kidney patients whose bodies are already under stress, this decline in immune strength can leave the door open to infections and slower recovery. Spirulina provides reinforcements in this battle. Its antioxidants, beta-carotene, vitamin E, and of course phycocyanin, act like shields protecting white blood cells from oxidative harm. Beyond that, spirulina has been shown to increase the production of antibodies, those tiny Y-shaped proteins that patrol the bloodstream looking for invaders. It also stimulates natural killer cells, the body's frontline warriors against viruses and even early cancer cells. And perhaps most importantly, spirulina contains special polysaccharides that activate macrophages, the cleanup crew of the immune system, which devour bacteria, debris, and anything that doesn't belong. When I think about immunity, I picture a castle surrounded by walls and guards. Over time, the walls crumble, and the guards tire. Spirulina doesn't rebuild the castle overnight, but it brings new bricks for the walls and fresh energy for the guards. In one clinical study published in the Journal of Applied Phycology, participants who took spirulina showed measurable increases in antibody levels and greater immune resilience. For someone like Elena, this meant fewer lingering colds and less worry about catching every bug her grandchildren brought home. For others, it may mean having the strength to recover faster after illness or to fight off the silent infections that can quietly strain the kidneys. By steadying blood sugar and fortifying immune defenses, spirulina creates a double layer of protection for the kidneys. The kidneys no longer face the constant onslaught of glucose spikes, and the immune system stands stronger, guarding against the infections and inflammation that can quietly chip away at kidney health. This combination gives patients not only better numbers on their charts, but also a renewed sense of vitality, the feeling that their body is once again on their side. One of the most overlooked burdens of kidney disease is anemia. It creeps in slowly, making people feel tired, pale, and short of breath, but many dismiss it as just part of aging. In truth, anemia happens because kidneys normally release a hormone called erythropoietin, or EPO, which signals the bone marrow to make red blood cells. When the kidneys weaken, EPO production falters. Without enough red blood cells to carry oxygen, every activity, from climbing the stairs to playing with grandchildren, feels like wading through mud. This is where spirulina once again offers help. It is naturally rich in iron, the very building block your body needs to make hemoglobin, the oxygen-carrying protein inside red blood cells. Spirulina also contains vitamin B12, which is like the key that unlocks red blood cell formation. Without B12, red cells become misshapen and weak, worsening fatigue. By supplying both iron and B12, spirulina supports the bone marrow's ability to build healthy red cells and keep oxygen flowing freely. I remember caring for Ruth, a 71-year-old grandmother who loved tending her rose garden. She came to me one spring deeply discouraged. Her hemoglobin was low, her creatinine was high, and she said, "Doctor, I can't even lift the watering can anymore." We introduced spirulina as part of her plan, alongside careful monitoring and standard therapy. Within weeks, her hemoglobin rose modestly, and her energy began to return. The first time she told me she'd managed to prune her roses again without stopping to rest, her eyes sparkled brighter than any flower in her garden. Research supports Ruth's experience. A study in the Journal of Applied Phycology showed that spirulina supplementation significantly increased hemoglobin levels in people with anemia. Another, published in the Annals of Nutrition and Metabolism, found that elderly patients who took spirulina had measurable improvements in both iron status and red blood cell counts. These studies remind us that while spirulina is no cure, it can serve as a nourishing ally in restoring vitality to people whose kidneys have left them running on empty. Of course, dosage matters. For most kidney patients, starting small is safest, around 1 to 3 grams daily. Even 1 gram has been shown in studies to reduce protein in the urine, a sign that the kidneys are under less stress. But caution is essential. Spirulina contains potassium, and for people with advanced kidney disease, too much potassium can build up to dangerous levels. This is why I always advise never start any supplement without first talking to your doctor. Your kidneys, your blood work, and your overall health need to guide the right amount for you. Alongside spirulina, there is another natural option worth mentioning, MCT oil, or medium-chain triglyceride oil. Unlike most fats, which require complex processing by the body, MCTs are quickly absorbed and converted into energy by the liver. For kidney patients, this is a gift. It means the body can get a clean source of fuel without putting extra strain on kidneys that are already struggling. One study published in Nutrition showed that MCT oil improved nutritional status and energy intake in patients on dialysis. Another, in the American Journal of Clinical Nutrition, found that it boosted fat burning and energy expenditure in overweight men. For people with kidney problems, where both malnutrition and weight challenges are common, this makes MCT oil a supportive tool. I sometimes describe MCT oil to my patients as kindling on a campfire. Long-chain fats are like heavy logs. They burn slowly and require effort to get going. MCTs are like twigs. They catch quickly, give instant warmth, and keep the fire alive while the bigger logs are being prepared. For tired bodies, that quick energy can mean the difference between feeling too weak to move and having the strength to take a walk or cook a healthy meal. Together, spirulina and MCT oil represent a gentle partnership, one providing the micronutrients and building blocks the body needs, the other offering accessible energy without overtaxing fragile kidneys. When used thoughtfully and with medical guidance, they give patients a chance to feel stronger, clearer, and more engaged in life again. For Ruth, that meant roses in full bloom. For someone else, it might mean dancing at a grandchild's wedding or simply waking up without that familiar cloud of fatigue. These are not small victories, they are life itself, returning in color and light. When we step back, a picture emerges of spirulina not as a miracle cure, but as a faithful companion for those walking the difficult road of kidney disease. Inflammation quiets, blood pressure softens, blood sugar steadies, immunity strengthens, and anemia lightens. Even energy, often lost too soon, can be gently restored. But always remember, every body is unique, and safety means working closely with your doctor. With careful steps, spirulina, and even supportive tools like MCT oil can help protect kidney health and renew vitality. Change is possible at any age. Stay hopeful, stay curious, and keep reclaiming your health.